We bring in our buddy Tom Murphy, Whole Hog Sports, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette via the Lewis Automotive Group hotline, brought to you by the Arkansas Beef Council. And Tom, I know people were wondering kind of what Taylor's status was for this upcoming game against LSU. Sounds like he's good to go. Getting a couple offensive linemen back, it sounds like, as well as Caden Kittler and Amarion Harris. Doesn't sound like you'll get Shaq back, but sounds like Arkansas used that bye week to the advantage prior to this game in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, good morning, guys. It does sound like that, and I appreciate you pronouncing Amarion's first name right, because so many people get that wrong. But, the offensive line really hasn't been the key part of the issues for Arkansas. I mean, they did struggle against a few blitzes here and there, and one of the games along the way, maybe the Auburn game, they had a rough game. But, that's been a pretty solid unit. They hit the portal properly on that deal. So, it would bode well to have better offensive numbers in this game at LSU. And to me, the biggest overriding issue of all is how engaged are the LSU players going to be. Mm-hmm. Now, Arkansas appears to, even with the close losses and all that, especially the last one against Mississippi State, they appear to be engaged for Bobby Petrino. And so I think this is going to be the first battle of interim coaches on both sides in SEC history.
Yeah, I think you did.
Did you say in history of the league?
Well, I was talking to Andrew Hutchinson yesterday, and he does good research on this kind of stuff, and that's what he thinks is the case. So, it's certainly Arkansas and LSU both had plenty of interims along the way, but this is the first time they've met with both having interims.
You bring up a point Tommy and I were speaking to earlier. I mean, there was topic of Heisman Trophy for Nussmeier, national championship prominence for LSU, or the previous three coaches that got it. You got a fired coach. We don't even know if Nuss is going to start on Saturday. Tom, who do you expect to see tried out there for that first possession for the Tigers?
I think Nussmeier will. I mean, I think Frank Wilson said yesterday that when they do their stuff early in the week, it's going to be Nussmeier. I mean, he is the returning starter, big numbers and all, like you said, Heisman hype. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but that face mask penalty against Bama on him, that was vicious. That's one of the most egregious face masks I've ever seen. So maybe at first it was like, hey, let's just see how you're doing. And then I guess Frank Wilson made the decision, let's give Van Buren a chance. Let's see if he can ignite us a little. And I wouldn't say he did against the tough Bama defense, but Van Buren had pretty good success against Arkansas last year, aside from a couple of picks. I know one of them was tipped. But anyway, he says both are going to play, and I expect that to be the case.
Yeah. Tom Murphy with us on Tuesdays. It's brought to you by the Arkansas Beef Council. Tom, we've been kind of kicking around the idea of, or the question rather, what is LSU playing for on Saturday? They're 5-4. I know a win gets them bowl eligible. They're 2-4 in the league. I would almost argue Arkansas without a win might feel a little more urgency than maybe where LSU is at. That's tough to gauge, but making a Liberty or Music City Bowl or something like that for LSU, I don't think anyone's fired up about that either.
Right. And it's personal pride. It's all the things that have been applied to Arkansas the last several weeks. What do you want to be seen on tape? How much pride do you have in defending the home turf? The last time they played there was the embarrassing loss to A&M. Where they're getting booed and they're chanting to fire Brian Kelly. So there's a lot that goes into that. Certainly a lot of personal initiative and incentive for a lot of these players, as it is with Arkansas. But I'll tell you, it's just so disappointing for them because they spent so much money in NIL, and that's what they were touting at SEC Media Days. I've seen the number 18 million applied to how much they try to improve their roster. And in some cases, like Barry and Brown at receiver and, various other spots, they have good talent. It just hasn't meshed properly. And the offense, who could have predicted the offense would have been such basically a disaster with their O-line and it's reflected in Nussmeier's numbers and all that. It's really been a head scratcher as to why they kind of disintegrated on offense.
Speaking of money in LSU, I don't know how much you've read up on Brian Kelly's situation. This is getting odd as they're trying to negotiate the buyout. He's rejected their first two offers, and now they're trying to figure out some kind of cause to get themselves more off the hook. What's your take on what LSU's doing, and how does that affect their current search for their next head coach?
Well, that's a great point. That's what I've been thinking about as I read through this. I haven't read it in great detail, but I've read some stuff about how they're trying to fire him for cause, and you know, when you get that nitpicky and all that, I do think it reflects on what's going on at your university, and I think it might have slowed the process for their next coach. And they're like, hey, what is this all about? Are you going to get that tacky with how you fire a coach? Because it's been implicit from Kelly's side that, no, he was just fired for performance, not for cause. So we'll see how that proceeds, but it is a sticky situation, and I do know that a lot of the LSU folks were tangled up working on that yesterday.
Yeah, and I just think it makes their job even a little less attractive to many. And I think this is going to be something that, whether it's LSU or other schools like Arkansas or Virginia Tech or Florida, or keep going down the list of openings, I don't know if the language changes in these contracts, but, man, when you have these buyouts the way they are, I see the incentive for the school to find cause. And I'll be interested to see how this one pans out. And it's just odd. Scott Woodward didn't have the authority to fire him. Well, he hired him. Now he doesn't have, I mean, if I'm Kelly, I'm just like, well, cool, I'm not fired. I'll be there Saturday to coach the game. I mean, I just think this whole thing is a circus down there.
You're absolutely right. It's just fascinating at how this is playing out a lot more publicly than what's happening at Arkansas. And I think the governor sticking his foot into the deal is a big part of that, because, you know, there's supposed to be a little separation there, but he made it so public that Woodward would not make the next hire that, you know, things transpired from there. And it is messy, but, you know, it's my friend Glenn Gilbo has been calling it like Louisiana Shakespearean University because of all the posturing and the behind the scenes and the drama. So, but, you know, LSU's pretty famous for that. They've had governors get into all kind of stuff over the years. And I got a brother who lives down there, and I keep a little bit more track of that than maybe some other stuff.
I just hope it's a huge distraction for Saturday. That's all I hope.
Same.
Well, I mean, it would play in Arkansas's hands if that's what people are talking about. It's what players are being asked about and things like that.
Tom Murphy with us, Whole Hog Sports, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette via the Lewis Automotive Group hotline, brought to you by the Arkansas Beef Council. Tom, speaking of SEC coaches, Lane Kiffin, he can't stay out of the headlines. Some he makes his own, some they just appear. I wonder, with the New York Giants job coming open with Jackson Dart, his former quarterback, the Miami Dolphins job that I expect to come open at the end of the year. I know we've talked about him with Florida and LSU, but in your opinion, could you see him entertaining the next level in the National Football League?
Well, if I knew Lane Kiffin's mind better, I would feel more, you know, I would feel more trustworthy on commenting on that. But I don't know his mind well. I do know that he got head coaching experience at a very young age, to the point that Al Davis, you know, called him a liar, a blatant liar. And that was 17 years ago that happened. And what I've seen publicly from him is how happy he is in Oxford, how you reflect upon your life and what's important to you with he and his family. And he seems to like Oxford. But the world is his oyster right now. He can certainly play any of these job openings into higher pay. And could Ole Miss potentially have the highest paid coaching gig in college football possibly next year? I mean, you know, we know that Kirby Smart and some of those guys are making, I don't know if it's $13 million, but if Jimmy Sexton is listening, I will say this. We need a reset with the buyout situation. Tommy, reflecting on what you said a while ago, the coaches are being paid well enough on a yearly basis, and enough of it is going to be guaranteed, that these buyouts are now just comical, to the point that they're, you know, crushing fan bases and schools on how much, you know, they're obligated to pay. So I would like to see that part of it restructured. And Gibson's certainly going to set the market, I would think, for Franklin and these other guys who are also kind of in, I think, wait-and-see modes.
Yeah. Last thing, Tom, before we let you go, stay within the NFL. Cam Little, his jersey on that 68-yard field goal, arrived at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. Pretty crazy. Got LSU week. He kicked the game winner back when he was a true freshman in 21. Just how cool is it to see that honor for Cam and what he was able to accomplish?
It's super cool. I mean, he was a great kid while he was here. You know, he started, pretty small with donating part of his NIL. I guess it was already going on to, causes like the Down syndrome and things. And he's just a wonderful kid, and I'm so happy for him. I hope he holds the record for a while, but as he even said earlier last week, that he thinks it might even be broken this year. There's guys like the Cowboys kicker and others that have the legs for it, and he does too. In fact, I was listening to the end of their game with the Texans, and if they had gotten a few more yards before the negative plays, he would have gotten a shot to break it again last week at the end of the game.
Oh. Tom, it's Veterans Day. I know you probably have family and connections that you're thinking of, just like the rest of us. So happy Veterans Day, and we will catch up with you on Thursday.
Tommy, I appreciate that. Yeah, my dad was in the military, and my sister, who I got time to spend time with this last weekend, asked me, "Are you working Monday?" And I said, "You know what I do. I'm a college football beat writer. Don't ask me if I work on Monday." See y'all.
You don't always win your first bet. That's why MyBookie has you covered. Use our code HOGS, HOGS, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If your pick doesn't hit, you get it right back with our Bet Back bonus. Go to mybookie.ag and use the code HOGS to claim your Bet Back bonus. MyBookie's, where bettors win together, because bragging's good, but cashing in is better. And your first bet is fully covered. Use our code HOGS.
Must opt in during the bet to use the Bet Back bonus.